Welcome to Hearts and Stripes, your one-stop shop for all things military marriage. I hope our discussions and interviews equip you with the tools to start or grow a beautiful marriage as we address the benefits and challenges of milmarriage. I believe life's most precious moments are worth celebrating, so I'll help you design your marriage blueprint in alignment with your core values. Thank you for joining us, and remember to rate, subscribe, and review. Let's do this. Hello, and welcome to Hearts and Stripes podcast. I am your host, Carroll, and I want to thank you for joining us for another Heart to Heart. Here at Hearts and Stripes, we are all about strengthening military marriages, and it's our goal to bring marriage back in style. The way we do this is through engaging interviews, sharing resources, advice, and all the things that you need to strengthen your military marriage. So this episode is special. And it's special because I get the opportunity to chat with two of my friends, Nate and Felicia Wells. So before we jump into our discussion with them, I do want to foot stomp the fact that they are a mil-to-mil couple. So they are both serving in the Air Force. And I think that is one of the most challenging situations for military marriages. Just doing that mil-to-mil life just presents its own unique challenges. So I hope that you find this discussion insightful and can help any of my mil-to-mil couples out there. So I will jump into their official bios and then we will chat with Nate and Felicia. Felicia Wells is currently a major serving as an active duty Air Force maintenance officer, and she happens to be the first Black female navigator and crew member of the mighty B-52 prior to her switching career fields. She is a graduate of Tuskegee University and HBCU, and she was the first Black female graduate for Air Force navigators. She has had a variety of experience in her Air Force career, one of which is as a sexual assault response coordinator and another a research and rescue duty officer, in addition to her flying and maintenance careers. She is also a proud and active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Nate Wells is currently a captain serving active duty Air Force as a maintenance officer as well. His previous stations include Cannon, Covis, and Tyndall Air Force Base. Nate was a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy. He also worked as an Air Force Academy Diversity Recruitment Officer. Nate and Felicia Wells first were introduced by none other than Bree and Donovan Carroll at our wedding in 2015. They made a connection and were married spring of 2016. Their first joint spouse assignment was at Tyndall Air Force Base, Panama City, Florida, in January of 2017. After that, they have been thriving in their marriage, navigating this joint spouse relationship, and currently have a daughter who is 1.5, and we are all anxiously awaiting the arrival of their sweet baby boy, which is due in March of 2021. So without further ado, I hope that you enjoy my chat with my friends, Nate and Felicia Wells. Nate and Felicia, welcome to Hearts and Stripes podcast. I'm so excited to have you guys on to chat with you. I already know the behind the scenes, how you guys met and your story, but if you could tell us and the listeners a little bit about yourselves and your milmarriage story.
So I would say for me, it started with knowing Donovan and then yourself at the Force Base, and how we created a strong community there amongst about 4 or 5 families that we had together. And me and Donovan hit it off. And I remember your love story. I was like glad to say I was there when I met when you came into the picture.
Yeah.
And infatuated Donovan was with you, and just the brotherhood that we formed there created opportunity for when you guys actually had your celebration wedding. He invited me to be one of his groomsmen, and in that process, a few months before that, he was like, "Hey Nate, I got some." So I was like, "All right, cool, cool, cool." He's sending a picture. You know how people don't,
Right.
do. You got to send a brother a pic just to
We did. We
verify.
planned this, Felicia. You don't know. We planned this.
Right. So I checked it out. I was like, all right, all right. And as the time was getting closer to running, all right, I got a little something extra to look forward to besides just the wedding. But so I had my thoughts in mind, and I tried to uh, approach Felicia and during the wedding and try to make my intentions known. But and she can speak for herself, but she ended up pretty much telling me she wasn't feeling me at that moment. So, so I had.
Felicia had not gotten the briefing. We only gave you the briefing at our wedding. And it's funny that you say that, Felicia. I want to hear your side of it. What were your thought process just initially?
Okay, so we were at a mutual friend's house, Tamika and Quincy. We're at their house, and y'all were like, "Oh, we have a guy we want you to meet." By the time our wedding came around, I forgot all about like, "Oh yeah, we want," because at that time in my life, everybody I knew was like, "Oh, she's single. She's such a nice girl. Like, I got a nephew," or "Yeah, I want you to meet so and so." So I was very used to people introducing me to, "Hey,
Gotcha.
why are you still single?" So at that point, I kind of forgot. And so I was excited about, coming to y'all's wedding. And, I think I lost a couple of pounds. I was like, I'm feeling good. So y'all had like a little, I guess it was like a after party for the rehearsal or something.
Yes, yes.
So it was nice. It was like, we went out and, yeah, Nate thought we were on a date. Like it was.
So I was trying. Maybe too hard, but I was trying.
No.
Okay.
Nate was making his intentions known. And that's what I appreciate about Nate. He was not afraid. He was like, I'm going to let her know.
Yeah. So he did. But I remember I was dancing and we're out on the floor and I'm like, okay. And then he comes up behind me. If somebody else was trying to dance with me and he literally did the like, nah, bruh. Like,
well, good, because look, now you're his wife, so he's completely justified, right?
But I'll never forget. Like, I turned around and I saw it, and I was like, "Are we in middle school?" At the time, it was. It made an impression on me. My initial thought was like, like it's a little territorial, and I haven't met you,
Mm-hmm.
But we sat down next to a large speaker and he proceeded to ask me some questions. So it was kind of like we're in the club and
you can't really hear.
He's asking me questions. But he did walk me to my car that night. That was really sweet of him. And then at the wedding, now this is where he made an impression on me. But at the time, like looking back on it, I wish I had received it better at the time.
Yeah.
But you have to. I think it's part of our story. So. And a good lesson to teach people. But, I had my girlfriends, my sorors, or my sorority sisters.
Yeah.
And so I was having a great time at the wedding. And so Nate comes up and he's like, do you need a drink? And I remember you were like, I really want to get to know you. And like, so he came up to me and was like, I really want to get to know you. And he was very serious, like, and but then when he told me his age, I was like, oh, that's like an automatic, like, because he's 3 years younger. And so I was like, oh, you're too young for me.
Right.
But then he was like, no, I'm an old
blocks.
soul.
Yeah.
I remember you telling me, he's like, I have an old soul. And I'm like,
you were like,
you know what? No. I was just like, you know what? I'll take your number. I was like, and it was like, maybe we could network. At that time, I had just found out I was going to be a maintenance officer. So I was in transition from flying to going into maintenance. So I was like, well, I'll keep your number. And, but I kind of wish you the best. Like, no harm, no foul. I think you're a sweet guy. It's just probably not for me right now. And so, but my girlfriend Kelly was sitting beside me. It was also
Oh
a
yeah.
sorority sister. Tamika, he had talked to Tamika, I guess when they were getting drinks or something like that. Like, even though I turned him down, he really made a great impression on my friends.
There we go.
Really great impression. So, a couple of months later, not a month, it wasn't even, I don't even know if it was a month later, but I just want to remind you, Nate was on to the next. So he totally met another girl at the same wedding, same night, maybe a few minutes later. And
we had good people at this wedding.
Exactly.
Just saying.
So
We had
I'm not.
great people.
So don't think that he was like, like dejected or anything. He definitely went out and had a great time. So it wasn't. But fast forward to a few months later, I was talking to, I was on, I think I was just talking to Tamika, and she was like, you know what? That guy you met at the wedding, he's a really great guy. Like, I talked to him, and she was like, you should give him a chance. Like, or just call him, and talk to him
Yeah.
and hear him out. So she said that, and literally that night I called, and when I called him, I was like, you've really been on my mind. And then from there,
Nate, hold on, wait, we gotta
we've
stop.
been
Nate,
talking ever since.
what do you what do you think, Nate?
So the script flipped at that point. I'm like she said, I'm already like moved past. All right, I'm here to help network. I'm always a friendly guy. So if she gonna need help in maintenance, or she got some maintenance questions, I'm willing to help you out and whatnot. I wasn't really trying to, and I even called my boys to like, guess who called me?
I believe it. I totally believe it. I believe it.
I'm like, I'm like, I'm gonna help out, but we'll see what's up. But she kept wanting to talk. We kept talking, and I was like, okay. We she's moving up the ladder.
Moving up the ladder. There you go.
Right. So, the more we talked, the more I liked her, and just have more of a connection than some other people I was interested in at the moment. So, she made the top of the list eventually. We had a lot of talks. I'll say date talks, and I like to remind her sometimes, like, most of our dating initially was really just by phone because we weren't living near each other at all.
Right.
And she likes to say our first date was when I helped her move down from what it was, Shepherd.
No. So this man, which I never had before, well, or ever, but I thought it was so sweet that he was willing to fly to Dallas, then drive from Dallas to Shreveport,
yeah,
pick me up, and then help me drive all the way to Florida. And we'd been talking on the phone, and yeah, we did have some phone dates, but I think like our first time, not in a club or at a wedding, but our first time, like just one-on-one, in person, was literally a road trip.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of forces you, and literally we listened to some songs or whatever, but we talked a lot, like, and we literally drove. So I mean, some people might think that might be a little insane at first, because like, well, it could go like either way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these days, but he was a very trustworthy guy, and really, I felt comfortable at that point, driving cross country with him. But then he was very sweet, very gentleman, and I was really blown away at just how chivalrous he was. Those are some things that I had never experienced with a guy, or was expected to pay half on things, and that really never came up. So those are things that like I that kind of made a big impression on me. I was like, he's not asking me to, you know, okay, can you split half, or can you help me out on this? Like, he's very independent, but very nice, and was willing to help me.
I think I have to interject here.
Okay, go ahead.
you guys have your version of the story, but of course we have our version of the story. And
Yeah.
what we did actually while we were doing the guest list and thinking of the people who would be at a wedding, and I mean, you guys have had a wedding, so you understand, we were literally thinking about, okay, the seating chart. Who should be in proximity of who, like what would be bad, what would be good. And as we started looking at the seating chart, we were like, wait a minute, we should put the single people in close proximity. And then we were like, wait, who would make a good, and it was like instantly Donovan and I both were like Nate and Felicia. We knew. We just were like Nate and Felicia. And I have to brag on Nate here because I love how you started off by just saying that y'all really have like a brotherhood. And it's really awesome to see a bunch of one African American male officers who come together, they seek wisdom from one another, they can confide in each other. They can talk shop. They can talk life stuff. And it's really refreshing just to see how close they are. So I knew Nate always as being a gentleman, always as being the person who was going to offer you some biscuits before church because we would all go to church together. Always the person that's like, hey, I'm trying to rub your stomach because you're pregnant. So I always saw Nate as this kind, caring person. And then I was like, Felicia would be a great compliment to that because you are a very sweet person. You were also like your personalities. We just were like, y'all could just be talking for days and y'all would be laughing and just enjoying each other's company just because your personalities are so complementary. So from months prior to the wedding, we were like, okay. And we had like it was three total. We had like three possibilities. We was like one and then two possibles, like spades. But we just really excited to see how you guys would engage and talk with one another. And I appreciate, Felicia, your honesty. When you first met Nate, you just weren't in that mindset yet or of even looking for anyone because you felt like, well, everybody's trying to get me connected with somebody. And when you took the time and got to know one another, even through distance, which I think is probably typical for some mill to mill couples, and maybe they start at the same location, but it's really awesome to hear how that communication that you had early on is like the foundational thing that you have in your relationship because that's how y'all really bonded. I like how Nate said like that those were your dates. You had a bunch of phone dates leading up to the road trip that would eventually take you on a trip through life together. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And, I can't thank y'all enough for,
Right. Taking all the credit. Here at Hearts and Stripes podcast, we will hook you up with your future spouse. No, we'll have to try that another time. We'll try
free
that
of charge. I'm playing.
Right.
But
We'll just have more celebrations and you guys can meet each other. But I mean, you guys have done so much. Like you said, you were stationed in different locations. When you guys decided to marry, then you were able to come together. But I guess for dual, give us a picture because all the listeners aren't mill to mill. So kind of what were the challenges that you guys saw as mill to mill couples and what advice would you give?
So, I mean, honestly, one of the biggest challenges is just the simple fact that you have to go into knowing that there's a high possibility. There's a possibility of you being intentionally separated by the Air Force, or some couples choose to do it depending on the situation that they find themselves in. That the so we was at separate bases, and I was still trying to pretty much finish up some things and aspirations at Canon before I left. And I had a year left, and we got married. We did a small ceremony with just immediate family at first.
Right.
And that's kind of typical of a lot of military marriages too.
Absolutely, we did that.
The paperwork first before you. And just side note, my family, they're not military at all, so they didn't quite understand. But anyway, that's another story for another time.
2 weddings. So it's like, y'all already married. Yeah.
But so we got married in order to, at our next assignment, we had the high potential of being assigned together.
Right.
and that separation pay was like, well, if we marry and they don't get us in the same base, now they have to pay us for it. So
I didn't know that. That's different.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The military has made a great change in the amount of effort that they put into keeping couples together. And I would say our career field in particular, we are very close to our Air Force Personnel Center um, maintenance officers, and they put a lot of time, energy, and effort to thinking about what's the best for not just our career field, but us as a couple.
That's
And
awesome.
that's an awesome positive change I've seen in the Air Force because you talk to some older folks, and it definitely was not like that at all.
Right.
The effort wasn't nearly as much. They literally prioritized us on the Rumble Move list above everybody else now. So that is very encouraging to know that they make a lot of strides in helping to keep couples together, but there's still always that possibility that we could be at separate locations because at the end of the day, the Air Force needs is going to come first for the personnel center. So
Right.
they're going to do their best, absolute best, and I feel very confident in that. So if it does come to that point, um, I don't think I'll be begrudging, only because I know from past experiences that they work very hard in order to make it work. So
Right. No, I think that's awesome to point out. I do appreciate every branch, specifically Air Force, because we're Air Force, for making that effort to keep families together. I think most of leadership, you will hear them say family first, or that would be within the three top things that they talk about.
right.
Um, and I like to hear stories and experiences of people actually seeing that for themselves. So, Felicia, advice. What advice would you give to dual military couples?
Um, let's see. So we talked about, you know, just communication, right, with our functional, and then also being having more real, kind of changing your focus. I know, like, um, we're to be an officer, or you join the military, and you have your goals. You have what you've set out for your career, right? And then you meet someone, and you have to figure out how are we going to merge these careers.
That's good.
Now,
Yeah.
granted, you have some couples who are like, you know what, like, we can see each other when we retire. Um, that is not I can't roll like that. But there might be some people out there that are like
Right.
that. Like, hey, we'll take whatever. For me, I think that it has been really important. Like, um, what to be more realistic about what your expectations are, and do you want, like, is there a location you want? Is there a dream job? And then how do you can't just do that on your own or make
Right.
a decision in a bubble like that. So I can't just call AFPC and be like, yeah, I really want to go to Germany, but he doesn't want to go. So if you can just send me, you can't, you
Right.
could do that. I don't know if that's good for
Right.
longevity, right?
And I like how
So
you're saying it. It has to be complementary because it's not just I'm looking at my career project progression, but it's like I'm looking at our progression. What works? Um, who is flexing? And I'm sure you guys have talked a lot about your individual career goals and aspirations because I think one of the interesting things that we talked about previously was just how because you are both maintenance officers you end up in different not in the same chain of command, right? So that also determines like the bases that you'll be at and the opportunities that you're able to and the positions you're able to fill. So I think that is a very good point in finding that one, communication is key, and two, realizing the bigger picture of how can this family be successful as opposed to like just individuals kind of being successful.
Yeah. So a tip I have too is with their last couple of assignments, we would talk to AFPC together. So we'll call, make and I would say coming from a different career field. So in the ops and flying world, it was kind of it might have changed since then. Things do change, but calling the functional is like a no, like, right. But in this, so that was like a change in culture for me. It's like, oh, we can call them, and
Mm-hmm.
and have and they know who we are. So but we actually make it a point to talk to them together. We kind of have like a game plan before we talk to them, and then and then talk
That's
to them.
good.
But I think that, and then we try not to speak um, too much on the other person's behalf, right? So um, I try to let Nate, speak for himself and for his career, and then and it's reciprocated. So unless it's something that we've talked about or they,
That's
so you just try
awesome.
to make sure you're on the same page, but also still, I don't feel like Nate's calling the shots for me, and I'm not calling the shots for Nate, and so that way there's no I don't want to say ill will, but there's no like, hey, this happened behind my back. Y'all are making decisions without me. I think it's
Right.
kind of just transparent, um, and I
Right.
think that's helped.
So I would say that we have not given up on our personal goals as far as career aspirations. And I would
That's awesome.
encourage people not to do that. But as I've sought advice before, and we have not come across the situation yet, but it may be some basis where, hey, you may have a quote unquote take the back seat at this assignment location, because this person really needs this job right here. If you still want to stay together, or and may flip the script at the next assignment location. And we kind of talked about that too, about those possibilities. I know once she's closer to the command than I am, right? But she's my senior in rank and career progression and all that. So if once she makes command, um, that may put me in a position where I have to take a staff job, and I'm okay with that. My next assignment, I'm not. I'll just make that clear. But I
There's
know, I
compromise.
know,
No, I like that. That's real. That's real though. It's
right?
Yeah.
compromise.
But after that, I already kind of go into that. It's two career fields, but one family. I think that's kind of
I like
the
that. Yeah.
overall message. And we try to, like she said, plan and make moves as a family as best we can. And, and your bosses will talk to you and ask you your opinion. What police you want to do? And I can tell her what she said as best as I can, but I'm like, she's still her own person. Like,
Right.
Yeah, people try to do that to us where, and I think at this base, because we're in such close proximity,
Mm-hmm.
like we have literally the same job, just in separate
Different.
squadrons, and there's
Yeah.
only two squadrons really. Well, there's three, but I mean two maintenance squadrons. So,
Gotcha.
um, so we're very visible, and I think that it's gotten better because like when people initially do it, I'm like, well, did you ask Captain Wells? Because they're like, oh, did they'll ask
Right.
me
They're
for
trying to
something for
ask you. No,
him, or
I
yeah, I'm
like
like,
that
well,
you
did you
guys do
ask
that.
him,
That is
or
really
yeah,
good
so
because I think oftentimes couples can get in trouble because even though they had a closed door conversation about something, they just feel like they can speak on behalf of the other person. But I think in this situation, you guys handle it very well to where you still want that person to speak for their own career or answer for themselves because one of the things I like to talk about on this podcast is boundaries. When you start creating habits and people are like, oh, well, I can just go talk to Felicia about Nate, that creates a habit and then they will continue to do that. Whereas you guys set boundaries to where it's like, nope, if you have a question, you will you will address him or her and hear it directly from them. But at the same time, I like that you acknowledge that you guys are on the same page. You have an understanding to where when you come home, it's, there's mutual respect and understanding that's there, and that's awesome to hear. So,
Yeah.
guys, I heard through the grapevine or via Amazon that someone wrote a book, and I'm excited to hear about the book, everything that went into it, the inspiration behind it. Nate, share a little bit about the book. Tell us the title and kind of why you decided to write this book.
Yeah, hold it.
So you got to hold it the whole time. But the
Awesome.
book that I wrote with the inspiration of my wife and family, Love, Faith, and Bullets. It's the overall title of the book. It's self-titled Unspoken Sermon. Um, and really is a collection of poems that I've written over years, several years, uh, since I was a teenager. And the initial point of me even starting to write poetry was really, if you're familiar with Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, and that had a great impact in my life at that time. And
Right, right. Because
I'm
you're originally from there.
right, and so this pretty much forced us to move and you know destroy my community essentially, and it turned my life at that point in my life upside down a lot. So I didn't really have too much of a strong outlet of how to deal with it all at that point, and for just God just starts talking to me, and these words just start coming, and I just start writing it down. And I'm a huge introvert. I'm an introvert, and I keep a lot of emotions stuck inside. And this is just one way for me to start releasing it. And from there, I just kept writing, and I've had people over the years that encourage me to write and share and keep it going. And then I started, as I got better and better at it, I started using it to impress the ladies. So,
I love it.
so, so I use it a lot. Uh, Wrote a lot of little love notes and things like that. And so from the time I was a teenager to about I graduated from college, is most of these poems that I've written. And obviously, I've written more since then, but
Right, right.
I just want that time period to be kind of captured one, in that time. And my dad, he was one of the first people, along with someone from a high school friend, that said, "Hey, you should put all these things in a book." And for years, they kept telling me that. I was like, okay, that would be cool. That'd be nice someday. And I just, I never put a lot of oomph behind it.
Yeah.
Um, and then one deployment, I had a friend that kind of put me over the edge and was like, you should really do it. And it got me want to actually really do it. So start putting the energy and effort into figuring out how to get it done. And I had one cool friend, and obviously Felicia was in my life at that point, and she was very encouraging and helped me out. And she came up. She actually helped out with this design quite a bit for the cover. So she came up with the design of the book. Um, but yeah, so that friend helped me edit it and get it all together and put in the collection and figuring out how to get it published. And Amazon makes it easy, and nobody ever did Amazon publishing before.
Yeah.
Amazon publishing makes it a whole lot easier to publish these days than
Mm-hmm.
it probably would have been a few years back anyway. So I think it was just perfect timing um,
That's awesome.
to do it. So it's a collection of some my good works from high school to college, covering everything from love to military life to my faith. And that's why I call it Love, Faith, and Bullets, to capture all those different synopses of what my life really was and
Yeah.
is.
I love it. I'm really excited that one, you felt led to put it in book form. I think I have a great respect for people who go the extra mile and author works, books. Um, collections of poems, because that's something that can outlive you. That's something that you can pass to multiple generations, and that they can see. So I'm really excited, Nate, that you finally decided to do it. I'm excited to see what's next, because I know you haven't stopped writing. I know that's something that, like you said, that's an outlet of yours, and there's some more great things that I can see come from that. Felicia, thank you for being an encouragement to him, and having him see out that dream. But I just wanted to ask, what is your last bit of advice for anyone that may be mill to mill, that may just be in their marriage, or that may be feel led to do something like a book and author something that's kind of bigger than themselves? What advice would you give to them?
As far as the book goes, if you want to do something, I would say it's scary, right? Because you walk into unknown waters. How do I do this? How do I get started? And sometimes you don't want to always tell everybody what you're doing because people can be discouraging.
Right.
But if you have that one friend that is willing to help you out, sometimes just picking up that phone call. And I knew a friend that knew a little bit about something that was willing to research with me and like, okay, let's see what can we do and how we can get it done. And that really helped out to actually getting it done. So just that first step. Uh, when it comes to military marriage, and we talked about this on with talking with you, is just commitment.
Yeah.
Is uh, having a commitment to each other and not letting the military or anything else, separate you between us and trying to prioritize us, which is it's a lot. It's always a lot to juggle. I don't think I get it right all the time. I guess most days, sometimes I don't. Um, trying to trying to balance it all, but you still have to prioritize your relationship
Absolutely.
above everything else. All right, commitment to each other and commitment to helping each other grow and with their career paths. And
Yes.
I know I listen to your podcast. I know you speak similar on those things, especially for non-military spouses. And encourage them to continue to seek out their careers. Is, is, but when it comes to mill, you definitely have to put a little bit extra planning and thought involved in when it comes to what is going to be our next move, because
Yeah.
even though I'm moving, is this base going to fit her career as
Mm-hmm.
well? Is it going to work for her, or does she have to do something else temporarily when we're making our recommendations? I should say, because it's not our choice,
Right.
right?
Right.
Our recommendations to
Yeah.
AFPC.
Like, this is what we think,
Yeah,
you know.
our wish list.
Yeah.
Um, it takes a lot of thought, planning, and commitment, as well. I'll say. Well,
I absolutely
going back
love
to
that.
let her speak.
Yeah. I mean, that was something me and Nate, uh, definitely commitment. And I'm not gonna. I mean, we kind of talked about that beforehand. So, um, being committed to each other no matter what. I think that um, the military, I don't want to say it's a machine, but it's definitely, it can take a lot from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can give it a lot, and but at the end of the day, um, I get to come home, to my family, and I want that to be intact, right? So sometimes,
Right.
what you kind of, I don't let that define me, but
Mm-hmm.
or let that, you sometimes you want to, like, hang your accomplishments on your shoulders and stuff, but or wear them, right? But
Yeah.
in this instance, like, um I just, what we value, and what our vows, that Nathan wrote, actually. So quite
Ooh.
poetic. Yeah, I actually wrote our vows, or I helped, but mhm.
We'll let the
But
author take the credit this week.
yeah, there we go. So being an English major, I know how to cite, right? So cite my sources.
Hey.
Um, but definitely like that was like the core of our marriage or in this covenant that we made with each other, and it's and at the center of it has always been committed. I'm committed to you no matter what. And no matter how the tides may roll, right? So um whatever comes our way, like we've been able to, and we've had some tough times. We don't, this assignment we're on here is a humanitarian. My mother got sick, she passed of cancer in January, and that's a tough time on both of us. But
Right.
um trying to take care of somebody, learning a new job, taking care of a 6 month year old, or 6 month old, not year old. But so that was we had a lot of challenges, but through that we stayed committed. And even with COVID, trying to stay committed, work
Right.
teleworking, trying to figure that out. And but at the end of the day, like I don't think we've ever lost the commitment to each other. So um and that's kind of rare these days, because relationships, like, you're not always going to be happy.
Right.
It can't always, it's like, that love and feeling, you know um you know what I mean, like, I think a lot of times people base um their their relationships, I don't want to say status, but how well they're doing based on their feelings. And
You're absolutely right.
um
Yeah.
yeah, and feelings can be fickle, right? So I think that our continual decision to be committed has been at the heart of it. And I know that at the heart of our decisions and the moves we make, like, we're committed to each other, whether he's deployed, whether
Yeah.
we're you know together or not. So
And I love that you put that portion in there about commitment and choosing to continually choose one another in your covenant, regardless of how you feel. And to go back on what Nate was saying, it sounds like, summing it up, you guys have always had a pretty healthy community, which has led you guys either to one another, supported you through authoring the book, and continues to be just a good group around your marriage, which keeps it healthy. And then within your marriage, that commitment is what keeps you moving forward. So I'm excited. I love that you guys are a couple that we can reach out to and have chats like this, like off camera, but just have chats like this and just be real about what it looks like to be committed and to think about career progression and growth individually, right? And but still want to be complementary and just go through this military life. And I know it looks a lot different from for you guys being mill to mill, but it is so important to have those strong couples who you can just reach out and say, you know what, he got on my nerves today. And I know he's probably about to call Nate, so it's fine. Right? He's probably gonna call Nate or text in the group and just be like, hey y'all, what y'all doing? And that's his way of reaching out to say, everything, just wanting an escape. But it's a safe place to escape to, because we know we have couples like you that also have that same vision of what it means to be committed, what it means to be a family of faith, what it means to want to be ambitious and leave a legacy for your family. And just being in community with couples like you guys has been such a value to our relationship. So, before I let you guys go, one of my favorite parts of the podcast is heart tracks. So I want to know what your heart tracks. What is the Wells heart track for this episode?
you ready? All right, so we decided on Al Green. We're gonna have
Oh,
some Al Green, and I think it's "Let's Stay Together."
I love that.
Yeah. So
Let's stay
it was
together.
it wasn't our, yeah, it was not our wedding song, but they did play it at our wedding. And I like that, loving you whenever, and that really speaks to like the
To
our
commitment.
commitment.
I
Yeah.
love that. Yes, that is perfect. Al Green, Let's Stay Together. That is the heart track. So, disclaimer, y'all, because I was at Nate and Felicia's wedding and I was like, I wonder what their song is going to be because at the time I was pregnant and I was in the bathroom sick. So, I was like, I don't even know what the song would be because I missed that part because of pregnancy. Thanks. But no, Al Green, Let's Stay Together. I love that. That is our heart track for this episode. Thank you so much, Nate and Felicia. I'm excited to continue to cheer you guys on. Donovan and I love you guys. And thank you for being on Hearts and Stripes podcast.
All right. Thank
Thank you.
you.
We love you.
Love you
Bree.
too, Bree.
Thank you for tuning in. Remember to rate, subscribe, and review. This is Hearts and Stripes. We are the few, the proud, that aim high and are forged by love. Always ready, always there. We are Milmarriage Strong.